Hi everybody, this is Cindy from Ideas Times 2. Welcome back to our channel. Today I have something a little different for you. It's not a tutorial, it's not a flip through, but I have noticed on Facebook and in chat groups that I'm a part of that a lot of people have been asking about what do I need to buy? What must I have in order to be a junk journaler? What kits do I need? What tools do I have to have? And the question keeps showing up over and over again. And a lot of the responses are really pretty good advice, but then some of them are also, well, I couldn't live without my, X machine, and I need the Y machine, and I could never live without those. And some of those tools and machines and things that people use for crafting are very expensive. And to me, it just seems like the whole concept of junk journaling should not require people to buy these expensive things. And I say that with a little bit of authority because when I started junk journaling, I thought I needed everything, and I bought a lot of stuff that I don't have room for, that I really can't afford, and I pretty much never use because it's not part of my style. So I was thinking with a specific person in mind when I made my list. I have a friend and colleague who just this summer started working on her first junk journal and really had no clue at all the kind of basic supplies, the basic tools that she would need. And so I thought I would do kind of a series of videos on kind of the basics, what you need to get started, things that don't cost a lot of money, things you probably already have in your house, but that you will find indispensable when you are junk journaling. And I think it's a good idea to kind of hold off on buying the big machines, the machines that will fussy cut for you until you know if you like fussy cutting. I don't fussy cut that often, and I do prefer the look of torn edges and inked edges, and that's just part of my style. So I wouldn't recommend buying one of those machines until you know if that's something you would like, or a cinch machine if you aren't sure that you really like the spiral bound journals. So kind of wait till you develop your style, till you really see what your style is going to turn into. And so that would be my advice. And so I have come up with a list of 10 tools, not supplies at this point, but 10 tools that I can't live without. And so that's what I thought we would do today. And I have a ruler here in my hand, so let's start with that. You're going to need a ruler. You're going to use it for a lot of different things, and obviously for measuring and making sure your pages are the right size and all of that. But and that seems like it should be something that's fairly obvious, maybe fairly self-explanatory. But rulers can come in really handy as well for other things. For example, if you want a torn edge, but you want it to be neat, you can just put your ruler down and tear up, and so it becomes a cutting tool that gives you a clean edge, but not cut, and so might be more in tune with your junk journaling style. You can use it to hold down your pages so they don't flop open while you're working on something. So having a ruler handy is, I think, probably one of the most important things. This one has cork on the back, which I really like because it's not slippery, and it's easy to hold down. You might want to have other kinds. They do make some that will give you decal edges, or like torn paper edges, I also keep a quilting ruler handy because it really comes in handy for a lot of things, and you can see through it, and it's easier maybe to when you're getting ready to put holes in your signatures and that. So keep a ruler where you can reach it. So that's number one. Number one is the ruler, so I'll keep that there. You also are going to need to have glue, and so these are the kinds of glue that I always have on hand. PVA, which is archival. It's perfect for bookbinding, and is, I think, the preferred glue for bookbinding. And it dries clear. It stays flexible. So if you're using it to make cover fabric or whatever, it's a good thing to have on hand. I don't like it for some, like for gluing on pockets and things like that. It's not my preferred because it's water-based and it makes the paper crinkly. So I don't use it for that, but I do keep it on hand when I am doing covers. And I just used it, in fact, on my last journal, so which is why it's sitting out. So PVA is something you might want to have on hand. I bought this on Amazon. It's not hard to find. You can get it at pretty much any craft store, Michael's, Hobby Lobby, Joann's. So PVA. I also really like Fabri-Tac. Beacon is the company, and they have Fabri-Tac, Fabri-Fix, and one other one, 321, 123. I don't have any in the house right now, but they're all very similar. This is acetone based, so it won't crinkle your paper. It dries pretty fast, also dries clear, and but it doesn't dry so fast that you can't move things around a little bit. So I really like Fabri-Tac. It's kind of expensive, so if you have a coupon at Joann's or Hobby Lobby or Michael's, you might want to use a coupon to cut that price down a little bit. Although I did find it, shockingly, at Walmart a week ago, 2 weeks ago. The 8-ounce bottle was less than $10. And so I bought 3 and was going to buy a couple more. I put them in my cart online and was going to do a curbside pickup, and they were out. So somebody else discovered that they were only $10 a bottle. So you might want to check out Walmart too, because they've not carried it in the 8-ounce bottles before. So Fabri-Tac is something I literally need when I am working on journals. I also found the Fabri-Tac in this really awesome tube, and it's got a fine tip. So I found that this comes in handy. It's not something you need because you can get little cheap plastic bottles, and at Hobby Lobby, Joann's, all sorts of craft stores, Amazon, that you can put, empty a little bit of this into that have fine tips, and so you don't need this. But I found it was only a couple of dollars, so I really like the tube. That's a new to me thing. Also, having some glue stick on hand is a good idea. Uhu is my favorite, but there are lots of other brands that work just as well. But you do want to make sure that you get a strong not school glue. And so not any particular, I'm not endorsing or not endorsing any particular brand, just school glue. I'm a teacher, so I'm very familiar with school glue and student projects. So, you know, sometimes the kid will do a project and it looks great, and then we hang it up, and, you know, a week later, all the little pieces are falling off because the glue stick has dried and the glue is no longer no longer works. So you want to make sure when you're making something like a junk journal that you're using a good glue that won't give up too quickly. And I also like to keep some double-sided tape on hand. I generally don't use just the tape. I usually, when I use the tape, I'm also using glue, but it's something that it's good to keep double-sided glue on hand. So that's glue and a ruler. One of the most important things for me, and something I think is the hardest for most of us to find, is a decent cutter, paper cutter. And so these are my two personal favorites. I have a couple of others that I just hate, and I buy them, I use them for a while, and I get rid of them. These are ones I've managed to hang on to for a while because I really like them. So they're basically the same thing. They're Fiskars, and I know you won't be able to see this on video, but it has a wire guide in there. You can maybe hear it. And inexpensive replaceable blades. And I have two sizes. Sometimes I only need the small one. One thing I like about this one, as well as when I travel, I can take this with me. I put it in a 3-ring binder, and it's good to go. And so I like having a small one. It has grips on the bottom so it doesn't slide. Also has tape on the bottom. And it measures just to 5.5 inches on the one side and 1.5 inches on the other side. It has a hand grip right here, so when you put something under there, you can hold it in to keep it steady on this little hand grip. So that's really awesome. And basically the same cutter in the larger size has a lock on it, so the blade and blade guide don't flip around, so that's pretty handy. But it's the same thing. It has a wire guide in there, which I really like. This one also has markings already with the most common sizes people cut to, which I think is brilliant. I have an old guillotine that I bought in the beginning of my teaching career that I have at school, and I have like tape markings on that one, and this is so much nicer than using Scotch tape. This one is a little wider than the other one, so this one goes up to 6.25 inches, but it also has a guide that goes out to 15 inches, and it's really easy. Even where the fold is, you can still get pretty accurate measurements. And like the other one, this one has grips on the bottom so it doesn't slide around. I just got this one at I think it was at Joann's, and I used my coupon on it because it was a little expensive, but I think it's definitely worth it. Rather than buying 42 different cutters and eventually them all winding up at Goodwill, or for me, I take some to school so kids can use them for projects. But for one for myself, these two actually are pretty fantastic. So that's number 3 on my list. It maybe should have been number 1 because good cutters are hard to find. If you don't want to invest in a paper cutter, don't have a lot of money right now, which is understandable. We're in, at the start of definitely a recession, probably a depression. You can easily use your handy dandy ruler and a blade of some kind, a knife or an X-Acto knife, to cut, to cut your papers or your chipboard or whatever. So I can't live without my paper cutters. I love my cutters. And speaking of sharp objects, the next thing on my list, number 4 on the list, are good scissors. And so this pair I have had for pretty much ever, and they're not so great anymore. These are creative memories, and I got them back when I started scrapbooking, when I was just out of college. And I used them for something I shouldn't have been, and so I've kind of bent the tip a little bit. But I like the way they feel when I cut, and so I still use these all the time. So you're going to want a good pair of paper cutting scissors. And if you like to fussy cut, if you are a fussy cutter, a good pair of fine blade scissors is really handy as well. So I use both of these pretty regularly. Tim Holtz has a whole series of scissors, and so these have the small blade. They're pretty good for fussy cutting, but they have normal sized, actually hand sized grips, and are pretty comfortable. The blades on this are kind of serrated, so they make kind of a serrated sound when, I don't even know what that means, serrated sound, but they make a different sound when you cut with them, which is something I don't particularly like with these, but they're very comfortable to use, and luckily for me, they don't have a bent blade like my old ones do. But having a good pair of scissors, and they don't have to be expensive. The Tim Holtz, I think, were under $10. I think it was like $8 and something. And then, if you have a coupon, they're even less than that. So that's not a bad deal. These are Singer scissors I got at Hobby Lobby and over in the sewing department, and they weren't very expensive either. Probably not more than $4 or $5. So you don't need to spend a lot of money on scissors, but you do want a pair that are decently sharp. And if you do any fussy cutting, to have a pair, having tiny blades is really helpful, I think. Number 5. See, a lot of these are kind of like duh. And so if you are a seasoned scrapbooker, junk journaler, paper crafter, all of these things are kind of no-brainers. But if you're just getting started, there are things you might not think about. And so my number 5 item is a pencil. I like mechanical pencils because I don't have to sharpen them. But especially in the binding process, when you're trying to make sure that your holes are evenly spaced and they're all lined up, having a pencil is essential. You don't want to use a pen and then not be able to erase your marks, or put dots in the wrong spot, kind of thing. And so you'll want to have a pencil. The cat is not necessary. This is my cat Lizzie. She likes to help. So the next thing on my list, which would be number 6, I can't find because the cat is, excuse me, Lizzie, is an eraser. If you're going to have a pencil, you'll want to have an eraser. That just makes common sense. But you'll want to have probably a gum eraser, and not just like the eraser on the end of your pencil. They come in really handy for lots of things in your journaling. If you have a book, you're using book pages and it has writing on there that you want to take off, you can use it for that, or in the binding process when you're aligning things if things don't line up, to be able to erase. And it just saves a lot of hassle, looking around if you just keep one handy. And so I always keep an eraser right on my desk. And so, which kind of takes us to number 7, which is another kind of eraser. This is a glue and residue eraser, and it's pretty fantastic. I don't know how I lived without one for as long as I did, as I definitely can't live without one now. And so, a lot of times when we're crafting, we're using glue and a little bit seeps out. Using the glue eraser, with the Fabri-Tac, one thing really nice about the Fabri-Tac is you can just use your finger and rub, and it will take the glue off. But you can also use the eraser, and even after it's dry, for a little while after it's dry, using the glue eraser is really handy. I got this on Amazon, and I think it was like $3 or something. So a glue eraser is important for me because I'm not necessarily that neat. So that takes us to number 8 out of 10. And something else I can't live without, I think, for junk journals is really important, is glue. They're not glue. I'm holding it in my hands. Is ink. I'm sorry, distracted by my cat. Come on, Lizzie. Is ink. My style of junk journaling is vintage. I like to have my edges pretty much inked on everything. I ink everything. And so for most of my projects, I'm using like Vintage Photo, the Tim Holtz. But you don't have to buy Tim Holtz if you can't get Tim Holtz products where you live, or they're too expensive, because they are kind of expensive. Then, I got this purple, it's pretty fantastic purple, at Meijer for $1. So it doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't have to be, in the scrapbooking section. You can, get ink for $1 at, the Target dollar spot, or at Tuesday Morning if you're lucky enough to have one still. And I pretty much always use brown, just because the majority of my journals are in that vintage style. But right now I'm doing, my current project is a series of lavender journals, the flower, not the color. But I've been doing a little bit of stenciling, and so I've got some purple and some green as well. So having ink is a number one, and not number one, but it is one of my essentials, one of my go-tos. But if it is not your style, obviously, you don't need to ink. Some people might find that a waste of time, or they don't like the look. If that's not your style, you can totally disregard my advice on that. But if you are using ink, you're going to want to have some kind of a dauber or blending tool. And I keep them handy. So this is my blending brush. It's a makeup brush and from Target. And so I use this for blending. These are daubers that I got at Hobby Lobby in the Paper Studio brand. That's the Hobby Lobby brand. And I think they were on sale, like half price or something, which when I bought them. But if you're not familiar with them, the ends are, oh, maybe. There we go. are just Velcroed on. So if you're changing your colors, or like this one's kind of getting old, and well, kind of, it's it's old, but I don't have any new ones right now. So it just Velcros on there. You can take it off. This one's got a little bit of purple on there. But they also have these little daubers, and they come in different sizes. And the pack that I got was from Hobby Lobby, the Paper Studio brand, and it came with like 4 different sizes maybe. And this is one of the smaller ones, but they also have bigger ones, and one that's, I think, just a little smaller than this. And you don't need to buy one of these. Just because you see it in people's videos doesn't mean you need it. These are very handy. They're inexpensive. They're, they wash pretty well, but you can, they're disposable. So you'll need some kind of a dauber if your style is vintage. Well, even if it's not, I do a little bit of stenciling, or probably in every journal that I've made, I do some kind of a stencil just for some visual interest. And so having ink and daubers, I think, is essential. Definitely essential for me. And a blending tool for the same reason. Let's see, where are we? We are at number 10. And so my number 10 tool is a corner rounder, and I have 2 different sizes. And let's see, got some cardstock here. So I have a larger size, and this one, I know I got both of these on Amazon because my Creative Memories one bit the dust, and so these were not expensive. This one has a little receptacle that catches the, collects the paper scraps in there, and so that's pretty nice. But then I saw this one as well, and this one has a smaller corner there, and I really like this one. I'm so glad that I got it, and I got this one on Amazon as well. So you can see the 2 different sizes, the large and the small. They do have a lot of other like corner edgers and things like that you can get. I know Creative Memory sells a lot, and when I was doing a lot of scrapbooking, I bought a lot of those kinds of things. But in my junk journals, I kind of like to have my journaling cards with rounded corners, and find that having a corner rounder comes in really handy. Way easier for me to use a corner rounder than for me to use, or try to cut a round corner. You may be better at that than I am. I'm not very good at that. So these would be my top 10 tools that I use regularly when I'm scrapbooking. The cat is optional, and in fact, it might be easier to not have a cat. So just to recap, a ruler, glue, scissors, pencil and eraser, a glue eraser, ink and daubers, and corner rounders. Those are my top 10. And is there a tool that you can't live without, that you keep on your desk and you use all the time when you are working on junk journals? If you have a tool that you can't live without that's different from my top 10, let me know. Put it down in the comments. So that's what I have for you today. Just something really for newbies, to answer the question, what do I need to buy? I seriously apologize for my cat. She's been acting so strange all day and I have no idea why. I don't know if we're in for weird weather or she got too much sleep last night, but she's acting so strange. Her name is Lizzie. Lizzie Bennett. What are you doing? What are you doing? And she and I thank you for joining us today. Have a fantastic week, everybody. And I will see you later. Bye-bye.